human's purpose, for the purpose of living here, so we can stay. So just kind of some thoughts. And then we have some examples of people that they fall into one of these centrisms. And the first is Albert Schweitzer. He's biocentric. He says that it is good to cherish life and it's evil to destroy it, and that all good is rooted in maintaining, enhancing, and raising life to a higher level, and evil is located in the opposite. So that maintaining and enhancing and raising life would definitely be a conservationist kind of approach to this. So he'd be like a biocentric conservationist. And then he also says ethic is extended responsibility with regard to everything that has life. So he's saying that we have a duty to uphold to all living things, and so the duty comes in from deontology. So he's probably a deontological biocentric conservationist. And then moving on to J. Barrett Callicott, it's an ecocentric individual. They say that society has and should expand to include the entire land community, therefore moral considerations should do the same. So not just looking at like the conscious ones, but also looking at plants and how land plays a big role in our behaviors as well. And kind of the last one is a little bit more in depth, a little bit deeper in thought. It's Duvall and Sessions. They kind of had a development of Arrhenius's deep ecology. And this is a philosophical religious perspective for cultivating deeper attachment to our interconnectedness with the world. So just kind of going back to how we're all interconnected. And they say it's through like a religious and a philosophical perspective. So their moral goal is the cultivation of ecological consciousness, which ironically the ecological consciousness was the title of one of the books we read during the systems thinking chapter. So again, showing how everything is related. So they wanted the ultimate norms to be self-realization and biocentric equality. So kind of realizing like who you are, what you're doing here, and why you're here, which is a huge question for humans, and then making sure that all living things have as much equality as you. And then these just kind of lead to multiple moral principles which are centered on the value of all life. So if we want to try and find a way how this is all related, I've kind of already explained it a few times, like talking about Albert Schweitzer and his deontological biocentric conservationist. My example is actually a deontological anthropocentric conservationist. So the deontology was duty-based, and then anthropocentrism is with focus on humans and the best outcome or the best benefit to humans. And conservationist, so he wanted to be involved, he wanted to take action, he or she, and that's why he was doing things. So they want to manage nature in order to benefit humanity, because he or she has a duty to ensure that this generation and future generations have a sustainable planet to live on. And I had seen somewhere on the internet, this couple had planted and cultivated somewhere around like 1,000 trees. And if we kind of want to pick into their brains, we can hypothesize why they did it. They could have felt like if they were anthropocentric, they were doing it for humans so that we had oxygen to breathe. And then if they were sentiocentric, it's so that other animals with conscious life also had like habitats to live in and oxygen to breathe. Biocentric is just because those trees also had a right to live. Kind of goes along in with the ecocentric like the trees, and then all of the communities that are established within the trees with all of the species and organisms in there have a right to live. It makes the earth a better place. Perhaps God was telling them that that's what they should do, because God says that like we need to protect this planet because everything that's here is God, and we need to love God and our earth. And then our relationships, they could have had a really strong relationship with nature, and so they wanted to be surrounded by it even more. So that's why they planted all those trees. And then if they wanted to do the deontology, like I said before, it's because they felt they had a duty to it, or virtue because it made them better people for planting the trees, because planting trees is good. And then it's fair because they had the money to do it, and they could raise it, and it was an equal benefit to all around them. And then the consequences were good, so like the outcome that happened, there's a lot more oxygen being produced in the air, and kind of going back to a more natural thing. And then they would just very obviously be conservationists. They couldn't move on to preservationists and just kind of like, they planted all the trees, but now they're just going to let it be, and if nature lets them thrive there, so be it. If not, then that's fine. Whatever was meant to be will be. And then our fourth and final topic is active hope. We'll start off with a quote from Paul Thompson. He says that the human species has made a mess of creation, and that's the starting point for any environmental philosophy of the 21st century. So I think what he was getting at is just kind of like we need to acknowledge the fact that humans have kind of really messed up, and that a good majority of this is our fault, and now we just need to like go from there, but like the first step is acceptance. So some questions that we raised in class are, what are we facing? What do we need to know in order to face it? And how ought we respond? So another thing just to keep in mind is during the Middle Ages, the human thought process was the best is behind us. And then during the Renaissance, it shifted again to the best is yet to come. But now, where are we? The best is yet to come in the future. The best is behind us. Where are we now? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And why is it so important? And is it just kind of a cycle? Like, is the human thought process just going to keep flipping back and forth between it's behind us and it's ahead of us? So we end with a lot of questions, but I leave this classroom like trying to answer these questions, and now that I'm equipped with the knowledge necessary to attack any argument from all sides, and I will take into better consideration now how each of my actions have ripple effects, even though I may not see it. So I just want to say thank you, Dr. Kohlhaas, for this newfound wisdom, even though it comes with a minor headache.